Conor here at IESE Business School, and what I wanted to share with you this week comes from a column written by David Brooks. And David Brooks is one of the columnists of the New York Times, and he's got a few books. One book that had an impression on me a few years back is called The Social Animal, which is a story about human life and just exploring how values play a role in our lives. And I like it as a book. It's written more as a novel than anything preachy about what it is to live well. And in a recent column, David Brooks talked about being around while his father was ill. And in the column, David Brooks talks about the shift away from having friends to doing friends to being with people. And this idea of a shift from the idea of having, doing, and then to being. And that so few human beings here in the West know how to be with another human being. And for me, very often in Vistage, when we work with leaders, we need to help our coaches learn to accompany leaders, to not fix things, but to be with them. And it's not by doing, it's not by your action that you make the biggest impact. It's your way of being together with people. And in the column, David Brooks talks about 3 skills to develop in order to be able to be with people. And the 3 skills that he talks about in the column: attention, accompanying, acknowledging. Attention, and what he calls in the column, is noisy, positive attention. That he talked about that he has some friends that when they listen passively. And he has some other friends that when they listen, they ask questions, they acknowledge, they make they're positive, noisy attention. And that listening to people is not just passively receiving what they're sharing, but what David Brooks called positive, noisy acknowledgement and attention. Positive, noisy attention, that you nod, you gesture, you ask questions, you repeat back what you're hearing. You really allow the other to see your attention visibly. So when his father was ill, learning to give attention to his father, but not passive attention, full 100% present, engaged attention. Listening with his eyes, listening, repeating back what he's hearing, letting the other fully know that his attention is 100% there. So the first aspect that David Brooks talks about is relearning how to give our attention in a generous, positive, noisy, affirming way to other people. The second aspect that he talked about that he was learning as he accompanied his father through a time of illness was just accompanying, just being there, and not needing to fix things, not needing to do anything, that he could listen to the problems of his father without doing things, but just was there, present, and accompanying. And this idea of accompanying without feeling that I need to give, I need to transact in order for this relationship to have value. So many of our relationships here in the Western part of the world are quite transactional. They're quite focused on what do we do. And this relearning in David of just being there, being present, of accompanying, not fixing anything, but just being there as a presence that is needed, not to fix anything, not for what you give, but just being there. And I find this a real challenge, to not fix things for the people around me, to not feel the need to give help, to assist, to give ideas, give connections, suggestions. Just be. I find it very hard to switch off what a number of people around me call professor mode. And between YouTube, between teaching in a business school, I'm very used to offering advice, offering ideas, offering frameworks. And for many of my friends, and in particular my family, the last thing they want from me is some teaching. And it's a quite hard thing for me to switch off professor mode and switch into just accompanying mode, just being there. So attention, positive, noisy, engaged listening. Accompanying, listening to what's going on without feeling the need to fix things, do things, change things, suggest things, but just being and accompanying, using your presence. The third thing that David Brooks talked about is acknowledging, letting people know how important they are to you, and taking it seriously to make sure you express it in a way. And I think in his own case, it was really important to him that he conveyed to his father over and over again all of the things that he'd learned, all of the values that he'd got, and this idea of letting people know the impact they've had on us, letting people know regularly what they have that makes them so special for us, what they've done in the past that has special significance for us. And I think one of the things that I've learned here, in some ways as my role as a teacher at IESE, as the president of Vistage, is when I tell people what they're doing well, what I see in their face often is it's a shock to them. They hear so regularly, or so irregularly, what they're doing well, the way they're contributing, the things that they're offering that are of value. So I think this third aspect of acknowledging, of letting people know how they've affected us, and taking time to really make sure that they understand why they're so valuable in our lives. But I like this column from David Brooks on this move away from being with people to fix problems or to transact, and moving to the capacity to be as a human being with another human being. That for him, these three things, being attentive, being able to accompany, and being able to acknowledge, were three parts of what it allows you to be with another person, and that your presence is a blessing for them when they're going through good times and bad times. So that was the reflection for this week. We need to stop and consider how we be with ourselves, how we be with others, and that our value to the world is not always the transactional capacity, but sometimes just the presence of our conscious here, and that someone knows that we're here present with them. So hope you take something from this reflection this week. Thank you for your likes, your subscribes, your comments, your questions, your positive, noisy attention, your acknowledgement, letting me know when these videos are of value, when they provoke you to reflect, to take action, and sometimes just to sit still and be with yourself. So have a great one. Speak soon.